So welcome back to the Science and Art of Open Water Swimming. Today I'm chatting with Dr Olivia Stewart, who many of you will know as an experienced channel swimmer and who also brings a really useful clinical perspective as an optometrist. Liv has completed 2 solo crossings of the Rottnest Channel, number RCS 2282, along with duos and team swims, and she's lining up for another duo this year. She graduated with a Doctor of Optometry in 2024 and has been working in independent optometry practices. From next month, though, Liv will be working with the Lions Eye Institute and UWA through the Lions Outback Vision Kimberley Hub, alongside taking on a teaching role within UWA. What I really like about Liv's perspective is that she sits right at that intersection of experience and practice. She spent a lot of time in the open water and she's thought carefully about things swimmers often don't, like sighting, navigation, goggle choice, and how vision really affects confidence in open water. So today we'll start by getting to know Liv a bit beyond swimming and dig into some very practical discussions around seeing where you're going and how to make open water swimming feel calmer and more controlled. So Liv, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Grant.
Before we get into swimming, I'd really like to start with who you are outside of the water. What does your world look like away from swimming?
Yeah, so I'm an optometrist. I graduated from the UWA Doctor of Optometry program in 2024. And the past year, I've been working at 2 incredible independent practices, which I've really enjoyed. They've been excellent. And I'm really excited to be starting a new job with the Lions Eye Institute and UWA up at the Lions Outback Vision Hub in Broome. So I'll be moving up there in March, which is really exciting. It's been a great first year, lots of learning, and I've really enjoyed it. I think it's exactly where I want to be. And moving up to Broome, I think I'll see a lot and experience a lot more, which will be excellent for me growing as an optometrist. I've loved meeting so many different people, different backgrounds, learning what careers they have, hobbies, maybe sports related. If I have a swimmer in my chair, they probably will stay longer. I'll go overtime just because I love to chat about swimming or any open water experience anyone's had.
So moving from being a student into this professional space and then as an educator, just finishing your Doctor of Optometry, stepping into this teaching role, how does that feel? Obviously, something very different.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a bit nerve wracking. I guess it's only been a couple of years since I was a student, but I think that comes with a bit of an advantage knowing what that student experience is like. I was there not long ago, and then kind of showing them what I've learned in that first year, how you grow so much more, because often the degrees that you complete and what you learn about the job is so different to what it's like in the workplace. So I'm showing that really enjoy what I'm doing and being open that I'm still learning and I'll probably learn a lot from them. But I've had teaching roles. I was part of a tutor with the Indigenous program at UWA and tutored an optometry student, and I've been a swim teacher, swim coach, so I always felt comfortable with that teaching side. And be a bit different being a supervisor, but really looking forward to it.
So you're teaching swimming teaching roles. Could you give me a little bit more background on that, and which obviously sort of leads into this link between swimming teaching and the work that you're doing as an optometrist? When did you start getting involved in the swimming teaching?
Yeah, I think it's a very common job for anyone who's enjoyed swimming through high school. It's a great job to have a lot of independence and I'm going to be creative. So I started swim teaching with UWA just after I graduated high school and then transitioned into more of a coaching role with UWA and also actually coached at MLC in the IGSA squad. So that was an awesome experience. So also at Scotch College, being a swimmer, you're always passionate about teaching others.
So you've been involved with swimming teaching, but as you mentioned, a lot of that was because of your love of swimming. So can you go back to when did you start swimming, and what was it about swimming that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, I started swimming very young, always in the water. Dad always loved the water. So yeah, I always did my learn to swim lessons and then got into squads pretty early. I really enjoyed it. I think probably enjoyed it because I was good at it, probably helps. And yeah, I wasn't very competitive when I was young. I was pretty happy to just be cruisy part of the squad. I really wish I did more of the competitions, but I probably got more into that in high school. I really enjoyed racing for school, but it was quite limited. It's always been pool at that age, and 50 meters, occasional 100 free, but it was often 50 meters. So a bit different to what I'm doing now.
So building on that, you've gone from a lot of pool swimming, a lot of stuff at school. It encouraged you to move into that teaching space. But at what point did you decide I'd like to get involved and swim to Rottnest and do some open water swimming?
Yeah, I think probably where it started is Dad had quite a few friends who loved swimming and actually were involved in the Rottnest Channel swim. One of his great mates, David Craig, has done 11 solos, and I remember being about 10 at the time, and I just thought he was the coolest person ever, such a legend. And his other friend, yeah, John Gregson, he'd done a few, I think 3 solos. So having those people growing up with, I just always thought they were amazing and I wanted to do that one day. So yeah, being surrounded by people who had been involved probably had a massive, really massive impact on making me want to do it one day.
And so you started off, you've done some team swims, you've done some duos, you've done a couple of solos.
Mm.
Across all those swims, how has your relationship changed with the Rottnest Channel swim? As you said, you were seeing these other swimmers and being really inspired by them.
Mm.
Have you stayed in that mindset? Where are your thoughts now on the Channel swim?
Yeah, I still think it's one of the best days of the year. I love the Rottnest Channel Swim Day. The morning, the vibes are high, the sun's just coming up, everyone's so excited, you're a bit anxious. When I think about the swim, it's always, yeah, very happy and excited thoughts. It's such an incredible day. So I think I still um, think of the Rottnest Channels in the same way, that it's an incredible achievement to do any team, duo, solo, and being a part of the event's just awesome. Yeah, I wouldn't say that perspective's changed much. Yeah.
I'd like to just sort of look at your 2 solo swims. Your second one was 39 seconds quicker than your first. Now, generally, we don't talk about swimming times because the conditions have a large impact on the outcome. But that improvement, as small as it was, what did that actually represent to you?
Yeah, yeah, I did my first solo. I just finished year 12 and I decided I was going to do a solo. So I probably only started training in November. But yeah, got really fit, felt really good. And yeah, it was great conditions. It was 2019, which is a really good year. Was pretty happy with my swim, and I remember it was exhausting. I think I was crying halfway through. Like it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but I remember finishing and going, I'm going to do that again. So I decided next year I'm going to train harder, and I did. I probably trained for since the middle of the year. I was definitely faster, stronger, and then, of course, race day comes, the conditions just weren't as good as 2019. And so getting a time that's only, as you said, 39 seconds faster, it was a bit heartbreaking. You think about all that extra training and everything, how yeah, was only a little bit faster for a 20-kilometer distance. It wasn't much at all. So that swim taught me so much that open water it's different. Every single swim, no matter where you're swimming, you just can't compare times, and each swim is so individual, and that's what makes open water swimming such a challenge and really exciting, because it's just you and the water, and it's hard to compare any swims because they're all so different. Yeah, that really taught me a lot.
So, with that in mind, I know we discussed that you might do a third solo this coming year, but now you've decided to do a duo again.
Mm-hmm.
The swim's obviously drawing you back. You still want to be involved. So, why in the end have you gone with that duo?
Yeah, I think I've learned from doing those solos, it's such a big commitment. And I think I'm quite competitive and hard on myself. So if I thought I couldn't give 100% to this third one, I didn't want to do it. Yeah, again, probably it's silly. It probably comes down to the time a bit. I wanted to improve it by more. And at the end of the day, it's up to those conditions on the day. It's not even how hard you train. So I think I just wasn't probably mentally ready to go again for a third. And I always enjoyed duo or a team. My duo teammates, Bridget, who I've been swimming with many years, and we did our duo back in 22. So yeah, excited to do it. I'm excited to do it with her again. It'll be great.
It's always nice when swimmers have got a goal. And a lot of other people have talked about how important the team is with that. And so obviously in a duo and a team environment, it certainly makes it a lot more fun, and it makes it a bit more, you're more accountable when it comes to training. One thing I really like about your perspective is that you're sitting in this intersection of vision science and open water swimming. Let's talk about swimming, about sighting, because it's something I think a lot of swimmers struggle with. When you think about effective sighting in open water events, what's the biggest misconception or challenge that swimmers might have?
Yeah, probably with the misconceptions that the more sighting, the better. You're going to see more, you'll do better. But actually, the more you sight, it's going to reduce your speed, you're lifting your head, your legs are going to drop. So you're trying to find that sweet spot of being effective at the sighting and not impacting your stroke and speed. Probably another misconception is that you're lifting your whole head. The further your head is out of the water, the better view you're going to have. So a lot of the time the technique comes into it, and practice as well.
So when we talk about technique, how do we incorporate sighting into our normal stroke?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So you want it to be part of the stroke. One of the best way probably that I do it is when you're starting the stroke, you're initiating that pulling motion. That's giving you the momentum to start to lift your head. But you just want your eyes to come out of the water, just peeking over the top. The whole head doesn't need to come out. The more your head comes out, the more your legs are going to drop, and it's going to slow you down. So you're looking up and having a look what you're looking for, and then turning to the side to breathe and back down, and ranging from about every, I'd say like 7 to 10 strokes, depends on the conditions. If it's more rough, you might have to sight more if it's a stronger current, or if it's more flat, perhaps a bit less. If you're with other people that you can follow and you want to risk that they also are sighting well, you can follow them. It depends on your situation and the conditions. But the goal with the sighting is to not disrupt your stroke. You want to make it part of the stroke. And along with that, you want it to be an efficient sighting. So having a goal of what you're looking for. If you're competing in one of the OWS swim races, say there are your pink and yellow boys, you perhaps know the order of those boys around that loop. You're looking for the pink boy next. So having an idea what you're going to sight. So because often I've done it so many times, you look up, you sight, head goes down, you go, I've got no idea what I've just seen, or I'm going to have to sight, another 3 strokes, and it was a bit of a waste. So I think having a goal of what you want to look for is really important. And sometimes, you're not in one of those races where there's those boys. So another really big thing is having a high contrast cue or navigational marker. So what OWS does really well is say your bright pink boys on blue water, high contrast, they're opposing colors, they're going to stand out more, a lot easier for you to see and sight. Same with like a white boat on the blue water, coastline, the white sand, or if there's a particular tree that you're looking for, if you're swimming down Cot, one of those pine trees, having a goal and knowing what you're looking for.
So it sounds like a lot of that is before we even get in the water, potentially, is know the course, know what landmarks are there, and even from the shore, being able to see or be able to find out which things actually contrast quite well. You mentioned the challenges with different conditions with sighting. How does the swell or the waves potentially impact how you might approach sighting for for a buoy or for a landmark?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. If the swell's higher, it's all about then timing that sighting. So the most effective time is going to be when you're at the top of the wave, the peak of the wave. That's when you're going to have the best look over the wave. So trying to time it with the swell, getting a feel for it, which you will as you swim and learn when you're going up and down. But you want to try and time that sighting when you're at the top, because if you sight in the trough, you're going to be below probably view. You might have to lift your head more and it's going to slow you down. So lifting up at the peak of the wave is often the best and most efficient.
Okay. So let's think more Rottnest specific. What should swimmers be thinking about right from the start line?
Yeah, luckily in the Rottnest, there's not too much sighting, but the first 500 to kilometre out involves a bit of sighting. The swimmers start off the beach on their own and have to swim the first 500 without any paddler, and then they're meeting them between the 500 to the 1 kilometre marker. I find, the best way is to have a plan before, know which side your boat's coming from, which side you're going to stay on. So if your boat's maybe going to be on the south side, perhaps your paddler should start on the south side. Swimmer, therefore, might be best to start south side of the beach. My opinion is that the paddler should really be doing most of the looking for the swimmer. It can be quite dark those early mornings, and there's a lot of paddlers out there. It's hard to pick. So some people wear some crazy wigs. Sometimes the swimmer, it is a bit tricky when there's heaps of paddlers out there. So I find if your paddler knows what your suit looks like, your stroke, your goggles, things like that, it's more effective to have your paddler really looking for you. And if you're sticking to a plan, let's say you're meeting at the buoy at the 500 metre mark, or you meeting more towards the 1 kilometre mark. So it's quite minimal sighting at the start, but probably when you're getting up to that 500 metre mark, you're looking for your paddler. I would do a bit of sighting, but ultimately my opinion is having the paddler doing a lot of the looking and them finding you.
As you say, it can be quite chaotic in that start. A lot of paddlers and their boats trying to create contrasting images. But when everybody's doing that, it becomes, again, quite difficult for the swimmer to identify their paddler and then potentially their boat. At the same time, a lot of the swimmers are wearing the same bathers. They all have the same colour cap on. So knowing the swimmer's technique, knowing what they look like in the water can certainly help that paddler to identify their swimmer. With this event, we're not necessarily looking for marker buoys. They are there to give us an idea of how far across the channel we are. But we're guided by the paddler. The swimmer's guided by the paddler. How can we utilise that paddler then during the swim to improve our navigation?
Yeah, the paddler's got a really important role. I think a lot of people just ask anyone and everyone to be a paddler, but it's such an important job, and there's quite a bit of responsibility that comes with it. They're following the boat, they're the guide. So the swimmer is always following the paddler. So we still want that paddler to follow the shortest route. We want to get to Rottnest as quick as we can. So leading them in that right direction is really important. Because you're not sighting forward, you're not looking for the boat, you're obviously not looking for Rottnest. It's quite far away as a swimmer to see. So you're relying heavily on that paddler. In that case, things to consider is your preferred breathing sides. You can look at your paddler when you breathe. Another thing is, say, I breathe bilaterally, even open water. So I found during my solo, I'd get my paddler to switch sides just so it would kind of balance me out a bit and I wouldn't be straining one side than the other. I personally like having my paddler about in line with my head, their head to my head, or just gently towards the back of the kayak. So I'm staying in line. As soon as you're having to lift your head and follow the back of the kayak, they're just a bit too far in front. We really want to stick to minimal sighting. You should be able to look at your paddler, and if they're giving you signals, for example, 5 minutes to go or 1 minute for you to push a bit more if you're doing a duo, or push a bit more before you're having something to eat for a solo. So I find being in line with them is an excellent way to be positioned with your paddler.
The ability to communicate and the ability to maintain normal swimming technique is certainly going to assist in swimming quicker and more relaxed. Now, if we move on to goggles, for most people that sounds quite simple, but maybe we don't think enough about them. What should swimmers actually prioritise when choosing goggles for open water?
There's a few things to consider with goggles: the tint of the lens, the fit, and even fogging, which is a big issue a lot of swimmers do face. Tinting, we want to have a good tint that's going to reduce the glare without killing the contrast. There's a lot of glare on Roto Day. You're out there from early morning all the way probably past noon. So peak sun, it's going to be really bright. You've got water 360 around you, lots of reflections. So there is a lot of glare. Say clear goggles, very popular for pool swimming. They're best for dawn when there is minimal light. Even say the start of the Roto swim morning where it's pretty dark. But you'll find during the day, if you're wearing those through early morning to midday, it's very bright. They're not cutting much of that glare and that bright lights. You're going to be squinting more, which causes a bit more eye fatigue, getting more general tiredness and even headaches and things like that. So I'd steer clear from any fully clear goggles. Probably the best is a moderate tint, so kind of an in between that super dark tint. That would be great. I guess if you weren't, there's not many options, any good times for a dark tint. I'll get to that in a moment. But other things is, say, mirroring or polarized goggles can be good. They reduce the glare a bit more. Big thing is that you're trying these goggles before you wear them on race day, which is the big mistake I made in my second solo. I had these Whadjuk, I think they were missile goggles, and I just thought they were beautiful looking goggles. They had this very dark tint and they had a great mirroring of them, and I just thought they were great. And what did I do? I kept them aside. These were going to be my race day goggles, so I didn't touch them until the morning of. And I was doing a solo, so you're off pretty early. It was dark, and I remember getting out probably to the 500-meter mark. I had a plan of where I was going to make my paddler, and I was looking up. I could not see them, and I remember I just kept swimming, and I would have to stop, and I was yelling out for them. And I think at one point I probably took those goggles off to have a look. It was just so dark that I couldn't find my paddler. And it's not a big deal. It probably a waste of maybe a minute or two. But I think when you're swimming solo, you just want things to go right, especially at the start. You don't want that stress and anxiety of finding your paddler. So that was probably a big learning for me. Try before you swim. They can definitely be too dark, and it's something to practice and consider. And even having spares, you maybe you're going to start with a lighter tint and maybe go through a darker later on race day. But definitely try before you race. And another thing is to think about and checking things on the goggles is meeting the Australian and New Zealand UV protection standards. About a category 3 of the UV protection's best. Again, there's a lot of glare, a lot of sun reflection, so you want to protect your eyes. Just like you'd be popping lots of sunscreen on during the day, you want the same protection for your eyes. So making sure those goggles meet those standards.
I think that's something that a lot of swimmers do potentially forget about, is even though their face is in the water, there's still plenty of reflection. And so that sun and the UV onto the face and, as you say, onto the eyes is still occurring. Fit's another area that people potentially underestimate. Can you just give a bit of an explanation of how goggles should feel and how they should fit and how we want to make sure we seal them correctly?
Yeah, definitely. So you don't want your goggles to be too tight. They're not sealing on your eye, they're sealing around the bony orbit part. It's very gentle and sensitive, thin tissue around there. So you don't want the goggles too tight. It will cause headaches. You'll end up with quite serious marks. Quite normal after a 20k swim to have some goggle marks, but after a pool swim, you probably get an idea of how tight they're sitting. If those marks are lasting quite a while through the day, they're probably too tight. Good tip is when you're trying on goggles to see what's fitting, I would pop them up, press them against your eyes without the strap on, and they should be able to lightly suction for a few seconds before falling off. With open water, I find that the larger goggle size is a bit more popular and it can be more comfortable for those longer swims than the classic, say, pool competitive goggles that sit a bit more inside that orbit and are a bit more tightly fitted because, say, you're diving in for pool. But with the open water ones, they're usually those larger size lens that can be more comfortable for those long swims. It's good to think about with the fit. There's sometimes options for interchangeable nose bridges. Lots of goggles come with a few different sizes, so I'm trying those on, seeing what fits best. It can help with symmetry of your face and the overall fit. And same goes with straps, playing around with the tightness. The straps are really just creating that stability and should be able to sit comfortably. Shouldn't be giving any headaches.
The last one on general goggles. It's something I think swimmers are driven mad by is them getting foggy. And it's probably more noticeable in the open water as opposed to just turning up for your normal training sessions at the pool. So what actually is causing these goggles to fog up, and what can we do to overcome it?
So yes, fog is due to condensation. So your face and your eye socket are quite warm, while the water is often quite cool. And so that causes a buildup of warm, moist air inside the goggles, which is the fogging. And when you're swimming in the open water and you're doing a race, it's long, so you're not really able to go on and off, put a bit of water in them. It's not really an option. You're racing, you want to just pop them on and go. So it's great. A lot of new goggles will have that anti-fog coating built into them. And when you start to rub this coating, it often destroys it. So the best thing is to rinse it off with fresh water. Rinsing with salt or chlorine, dipping in the pool is going to also start to remove that coating. So trying to take good care of your goggles, rinsing them in fresh water, and try not to rub the inside of the lens where that coating's sitting would really help. There are some anti-fog solutions like some sprays. Even things like baby shampoo can help because it's pH neutral, and even saliva can help. But I do find you're going to get the best result with just a new pair of goggles. So if you find something that you like, maybe buy a few pairs and make sure they're all fitting the same. If you're going to change any parts to it, and maybe keep one that's for that race day, so it avoids the fogging occurring on those important days.
Now, a lot of swimmers wear glasses in their day-to-day lives, but don't think about correcting their vision when they swim. When is that good enough? And when does it potentially become a problem?
Yeah, so swimming doesn't really require any fine detail. You don't have to have 20/20 vision to be able to swim, especially in open water. We've often got those large buoys or, big boats, your paddler. Everything's on a pretty large scale, so you don't need that fine detail. And for many swimmers, they maybe need glasses outside the water for driving, but in the water, they probably just feel like their vision's good enough to get by. And sometimes the bigger issues is more in pool squads when you've got to read the board or look at the clock. That's probably the more finer detail. But in open water, everything's on a large scale. So a lot of people can get away with not correcting their vision for those with more mild, moderate prescriptions. When it gets a bit higher, it's definitely going to make more of an impact and give you a lot more confidence and support if you're correcting your vision with the higher prescriptions.
So what are the realistic pros and cons of having prescription goggles?
Yeah, so prescription goggles are a great option. There's a few different sorts. There's an off-the-shelf kind of prescription goggle where it's a set prescription in both eyes. It's going to be the same. They're usually bigger jumps between the prescription. So most of the time, it's not going to fully correct people's prescription. People in general are quite asymmetrical. No one's got really the same prescription in both eyes. So it's likely not going to be the perfect script for you, but it's a great affordable option. It's a great way to try having a prescription pair of goggles. Probably sits around a $50 mark upwards. And then you can get more specialized prescription goggles where they can correct astigmatism, which a lot of people have, and say those different prescriptions between the eyes it can correct. So they're probably sitting at $100 or above for those specialized prescription goggles. And I do find all the time that people that have been swimming for a while have often found a pair of goggles that they really like. So the idea of changing isn't very appealing. And I have to say, sometimes those prescription goggles aren't the most fashionable, or those not really the competitive goggle style that many people like. So those parts can be a bit off-putting. I know Fiski have a prescription goggle that look really good, so that's a great option. They have an off-the-shelf style prescription goggles. It's always best to ask your optometrist what might be best for you, and keeping in mind that these goggles often take, the more specialized ones, about 3 weeks to be made. So it's not a really try before you buy option. You kind of have to commit and be patient for when they come and to try then.
So you started wearing contacts recently for open water. What changed for you?
Yeah, so I'm short-sighted. I'm about a -2, so not too bad. I need glasses to drive, but I've never worn any correction with swimming, and I only started last year wearing contacts, and really mostly with open water. I find that I actually just enjoy my swims more. I've been swimming a bit along, say, from like Swanbourne to Cot, and I got to see the fish more, the reef, be able to spot the markers a bit easier, some of the boys, and even the fellow swimmer. So I find it more enjoyable. I wouldn't say it's improved my swimming performance, but I'm just a bit more confident and get a bit more enjoyment out of it. I've worn them a few times to the pool, but I actually feel like I don't get much of a difference. I can still read the board as long as Grant's writing the the setup pretty clearly. I can see it. And then the clocks, we're pretty lucky. Our clock's pretty big on pool deck, so those numbers are pretty easy for me to see. So everyone's different, but I have found, recently just wearing them, even for an OWS swim. I did a 5K a few weeks ago. Yeah, just probably gave me more confidence in the boys I was looking at, and probably helped a bit with the sighting. But overall, I don't think it had a massive improvement on my performance.
So with wearing contacts, there's obviously some things we need to consider. So if I decide, yep, I'm not going to go down the path of having prescription goggles, I'm going to use contacts. How do I do this in the safest way?
Yeah, I guess a big thing with contacts is, number one, learning how to put them in, take them out. It can be a challenge on its own, learning that skill and being motivated to try. That's really the big thing with contacts. You've got to be motivated to learn how to pop them in and take them out. The advantages of the contacts with swimming is, compared to the goggles, is a wider field of view and better peripheral vision, because in those goggles, the optical center is central in those lenses. So your best vision is going to be when you're looking straight through those. When you're looking left and right, just moving your eyes in the goggles, it's not going to be as clear. But with the contacts, because they're sitting on the eye and they're following that eye movement, so you're going to have clear vision, looking left, right, up, down. So better peripheral awareness. And you're going to have clear vision with and without the goggles on. So before you get in the pool, it's going to be nice and clear. And if you finish the set as well, taking them off, and it's going to be good. I guess the downside of that is that you can lose a lens while you're swimming. So one might pop out, and then that's going to be a real pain to try and pop another one in. You want to try and have nice clean hands, which, you say, if you're swimming an open water race, it's not going to happen. So you might be one lens down, or worst comes to worst, you're both lenses down, you're in a bit of a sticky situation. You've lost both contact lenses. You're not probably going to be able to pop any more in, especially if you're, say, doing a solo, can't touch the boat or anything. So it's something to be mindful of those risks and what could go wrong if you were to lose both contacts, or even just one, and it makes a difference. Probably the biggest warning with contacts and swimming is the risk of infection, whether you're swimming in the pool or open water. And even showering, a lot of people don't realize that there is bacteria in tap water. So even something like showering after swimming, you're going to increase your risk of infection with the contact lens in. That contacts is just going to absorb any bacteria. The best lenses are daily disposable, so the ones that you pop in just for swimming, and I would always recommend to take them out straight after you've done. Not wearing them the rest of the day. It's best to take them out even before you shower. It's going to reduce your risk of infection. Definitely avoiding those 2 weekly or monthly lenses that you rewear, no matter how well you clean them. Again, the greater risk of infection with the re-wearing of the same lenses. And a lot of people say to me, oh, well, my goggles, they seal so well, I don't get any water into my eyes. And I don't know, no matter, I think whatever goggles you have, there's always going to be some amount of water getting in, and you can't always predict those things. So yeah, even if you're confident that you've got the best goggles, there's still a risk of infection.
So we're getting towards the end. For swimmers who struggle with navigation or visual confidence, what could they do in that short term to improve their navigation?
Practice is a big thing. So practicing, say, your sighting, even in the pool. I know there's no waves, but it's a great opportunity to practice. Having your coach on pool deck to be able to give you some feedback of how you're going with the sighting is excellent. I would go and do as many, open water swims, whether that be just during the pod squad and doing up and down cot, a bit more exposure to the open water. And again, it's going to force you to practice that sighting and the navigation. And along with that, you'll pick up little things and watch how others do it, what things they're looking for. A big thing for any race, even an OWS race, is having a pre-swim rehearsal of what the buoy order is. For example, the OWS have sent out a map each race that has the colors of each buoy around that loop. So knowing, okay, it's the pink buoy first, then the orange, then the yellow, then the pink. So having an idea of what the order is and being able to predict. So when you are sighting, you've got a better goal. And going back to what we've mentioned before is having those high contrast markers. So like I said, the pink buoy on the blue water, and maybe not pinking like a green buoy or someone in a green cap. It's going to be a bit harder because it's low contrast. And swimming with a buddy, just swimming with someone, it's one, more enjoyable and safer, and someone to just give you a bit more confidence. If you're not sure about your sighting skills and your navigation, doing it with someone, it's going to be a lot better. 2 brains better than one. So sure, that would help.
Before we finish, I ask this question of everyone. What's your favourite swimming set?
That's so hard. It's very dependent on what mood I'm in. Probably between a 50 to 100 and maybe 200. 200 is a pretty good sweet spot. It just depends. I wouldn't say there's one. I do love pool. I love a bit of pool, so that's always good.
And is there anything that we haven't covered today that you think maybe swimmers should know about bringing in your experience in open water swimming?
Yeah, if you're not sure about your vision with your swimming, I would go and see your optometrist. Just have a chat, discuss, what options there might be for you. If maybe prescription goggles might benefit you, or going down the contact lens path. And similarly, if you experience any dryness, irritation, there are things like chlorine chemical conjunctivitis and increased risk of infection. So especially if you're wearing the contacts. So if you do have any experiences like that, I always recommend to go and see your optometrist.
I appreciate that you're moving away from the city very soon. Is there an opportunity to people to come out, to come and see you, to get advice, to have their eyes checked by you?
Yeah, if you're in Broome, pop in, of course. I'm always open to having a chat with anyone. So if you see me down at the beach or Rotto morning, welcome to have a chat. And if you're in Broome, pop into the Kimberley Hub at the Lions Outback Vision. That would be great.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today about all things swimming and vision. It has been really excellent.
Thanks, Grant. That's great.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Science and Art of Open Water Swimming. I hope you enjoyed hearing Liv's insights on navigating the water, and that her experience gives you something practical to take into your own swimming. If you found today's conversation helpful, it would mean a lot if you could follow the show, leave a rating or review, or share this episode with a friend or a squad mate who loves open water swimming as much as you do. It really helps more swimmers discover the podcast. And if you have any questions, ideas for future topics, or guests you'd love to hear from, you can always reach out. I'd love to hear from you. And keep an ear out this Thursday for a bonus episode with Dr. Angela Spence, dropping just ahead of the Rottnest Channel Swim. Thanks again for listening, and as always, I'll see you in the water.